At 11 o'clock this morning Eastern Time, the President of the United States issued one of the most extreme trade threats in modern history. 100% tariffs on every single Canadian product entering the United States. A complete doubling of prices. An economic sledgehammer. And the reason? Canada made a deal with China. Now, stay with me, Hoy, because this is not just another Trump tariff story. This isn't even really about China. What's happening right now is something much bigger. We are watching the possible collapse of the most successful trade partnership in modern history unfolding in real time. And the next 6 months will decide everything. 1 week ago, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney landed in Beijing, the first Canadian leader to do so in 8 years. Hours later, Canada and China announced a deal that shocked Washington. Chinese electric vehicles back into Canada. Canadian canola, seafood, and exports back into China. And with that single agreement, Canada broke ranks with the United States. 5 days later, Carney stood on the world stage in Davos and said something no Canadian leader had dared to say out loud: the old order is over. Trump heard it. Trump reacted. And this morning, the threat came down. 100% tariffs. Because this isn't about punishment, it's about power, it's about control, and it's about whether Canada is still allowed to choose its own future. By July, this entire trade system either survives or collapses. At approximately 11 o'clock this morning Eastern Time, the President of the United States issued a threat that stunned global markets. A threat to impose 100% tariffs on every Canadian good entering the United States. Not a warning, not a negotiating signal, a doubling of prices across the entire U.S.-Canada trade relationship. The justification was simple. Canada made a deal with China. But what's unfolding right now goes far beyond tariffs, electric vehicles, or even China itself. This is about power. It's about whether the North American economic order, an order that has existed for over 30 years, can survive a moment. When the United States treats its closest ally as a strategic adversary. And the timeline is short. In 6 months, the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement faces mandatory review. That review will determine whether the most integrated trading bloc in the Western Hemisphere continues or begins to unravel. 5 days later, Carney stood on the stage at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And instead of hedging his words, he delivered a message that landed like a thunderclap. We are not in a transition. We are in a rupture. He spoke of coercion, of tariffs used as weapons, of middle powers being forced to choose sides. And then came the line that defined the moment. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. The audience stood. The next day, Donald Trump took the stage. And when he spoke about Canada, the tone was unmistakable. Canada lives because of the United States, he said. Carney responded publicly, calmly, firmly. Canada does not live because of the United States. Canada thrives because it is Canada. That refusal to bend is what triggered everything that followed. The 100% tariff threat is not about wounded pride. It's about the July 2026 trade agreement review. Trump wants tighter rules of origin. He wants restrictions aimed directly at China. And he wants Canada and Mexico aligned with U.S. geopolitical strategy